What better way is there to spend a day than just messing about by a river? This is the River Tweed, which used to be the border between England and Scotland. Actually, it still is for a large stretch of the border, but the border now whips off northwards before it reaches the lovely ancient town of Berwick-upon-Tweed. You might recognise the rail bridge from some of the wonderful videos put out by the Northern Mudlarks, who I shall have the great pleasure of meeting and mudlarking with tomorrow. But this glorious light of such a bright January afternoon is too good to not have a little look about today too. And one of the first things that's caught my eye is this little rock, which at first glance looks to have patterns carved into it. It stood out very clearly from the rest of the rocks here, but I can't tell yet if those lines are naturally forming or if they were deliberately carved by a human. I suspect natural causes, but I'll take it just in case. A little bit of pottery, plain white, but with some texture. I've seen similar patterns on old planters, but it could be from something more interesting. I don't know. Any ideas? So that rail bridge is the Royal Border Bridge, opened in 1850 by Queen Victoria, and it is possible, even though it's objectively beautiful, to consider it to be one of the great travesties of thoughtless construction, because the ruins of a 12th century castle were demolished to make way for it. The station platform now stands where the Great Hall was, and even though the notable parts that the castle played in the relationship of England and Scotland are well recorded, the loss of such an important historic building is a sad one. Not at all worrying that such a big iron bolt seems to have fallen from the rail bridge. Can't have been very important. Actually, no, I recognise it. It's not something that was an integral part of the structure. It's an anchor bolt used to secure the rail track to sleepers, and it's probably down here because it's been replaced as part of regular maintenance. And that there might be a pile of the sleepers. Well, not a pile exactly. I think someone's tried to arrange them in a pleasing pattern. But yes, I reckon they were probably sleepers. And here's a pile of ironwork, lots of anchor bolts, and a few bits of old scaffolding support. I think someone gathered them together and then decided not to take them, just as I'm doing. They're historically interesting perhaps, and possibly antiques, but heavy, and no use to me. See it? Hagstone, with 2 holes. It's very rare that I find one with 2 holes where I live. Quite a common find for the Northern Mudlarks. I wonder what might be common to me that would be treasure to them. The new day has dawned bright, and I'm down by the magnificent old Berwick Bridge, which opened to traffic in 1624, and I'm searching the mud for old things alongside the wonderful treasure hunting, mudlarking, crafting and YouTubing duo Northern Mudlarks. Let's see what we can find. And my first find of the day is going to be this, whatever it is. I reckon it's brass and very squashed. Would have been dome shape or parabola. I'm not sure what it is yet. It's easy to forget as an adult how pleasing it can be to squish about in the mud. Anyway, Alex has suggested that this could be an old lamp of either a car or a bike, and I think she's right. I'll have to unfold it a bit to find out if it was gas or electrical lamp, and whether I can find a maker's mark or model number. A bit of crab shell. A bit of stoneware, looks like the bottom of a ginger beer bottle, about that size anyway. Flint. Now where I live, if I find flint, it's likely to have a human element to its history. It might have been brought into the area and either worked or a discarded offcut from the knapping process, but here, something like this which isn't obviously worked, I will assume is shaped by nature. Bit of an old soul. And it's light and has maybe a tar coating? Too light to be stone or ceramic, so maybe cement or even a plastic. I'm not sure. Feels like it could be. I'll take it and see if I can figure it out. I'm told that in this spot behind the bridge footings there's good river glass to be found. And pipe stems. Yep, pipe stem. And river glass. Though not this piece, it's not smooth yet. This piece may be. And that one. Yes, there are some really nice pieces of river glass here. And what a beautiful place it is to be hunting for beautiful river glass.
Maybe it's something thin or something. It doesn't feel heavy enough to metal, so I'm not sure. Really cool. We've got some things here.
Bits of clay pipe
And a nice, lovely bit of cobalt blue glass.
But there are a lot
And you
of
can see we also have matching gloves today, guys.
so you might think your hand's coming from several directions.
Nice thermal gloves.
Now something here, this, is interesting. Seen anything like it before? Is it ceramic in the shape of a twist of wire, or a twist of wire that's so corroded that the centre part is now gone, leaving holes all the way through where once there was metal? Suggestions, thoughts, knowledge, anyone? So many pieces of shoes today. Makes me think that maybe they were lost in the mud by mudlarkers and explorers who didn't quite come prepared. I'm sure I'll find some patches of mud today that I'll try to take my wellies. starting to look like a clump of unrelated pottery pieces. Plain, teacup handle. Nothing actually very pretty or interesting. Looks like it might be uranium glass. Don't know if a camera is catching it, but there's a fluorescent yellow colour to it. A bit of blue pattern on it, quite faded. Oh, there it is, sticky mud. Thankfully not very deep at this point. Going to tentatively walk out and see if there's a viable pathway to that little island, because it looks like there might be interesting things there. And more importantly, a good spot to photograph the bridge from. Alas, it's getting too deep. Maybe when the tide is further out, though that will remove the surrounded by water aspect of the current photographic potential. Enamel tray. Well past its original use, and I've still got no ideas for upcycling something like this. Copper pipe. Muddy, encrusted, but sure. Every little piece of it has value, and I shall take it. Nope. Nope. Now let's check out that thing. It's big, it's rusty, it's got a hole in it, and a curve like a shallow wok. Ooh, and it's got a load of wriggling little brine shrimp behind it. I think I can live without whatever this thing is, so I'll return the shrimp shelter to them and leave them in peace. Little hinge. Uninteresting hinge, really. What I have here is a stick. It fooled me into picking it up by looking like a tube, but hollow though it is, I don't think it's some ancient artefact of human activity, just a stick in the mud. Oh, now that is an artefact. That's a strip of lead wrapped around the end of a rotted pole of wood. I'm sure I have many ideas for what it could be from, but no idea which one is right. Suggestions are welcome. This is the Royal Tweed Bridge, opened in 1928 and now home to what looks like 1,000 pigeons. And down here, I keep picking up bottle tops, knowing that the Northern Mudlarks often find bits and pieces of 17th century handmade bottles here, and I haven't, yet. Every time an emergency vehicle goes over the bridge with its siren on, and that has happened a lot today, it makes some of the many birds take flight. With a good camera and a good lens, that could make for spectacular footage. Here the mud is deep and it is grabby. Almost lost my willy there. And all to get to a lager glass, which I had hoped was something more interesting. I do drink more wine than beer anyway. Now, will it look Instagram good with light shining through it? Not really, with mud still oozing around inside it. Sanke, probably not all that old, but interesting, perhaps a puzzle to figure out. How strange, they survive so well in the rocky rivers at home, but broken here in the cushioning mud, a Shipham's paste jar. Bit of an old crock pot maybe. Lacking any other bits that would make it easier to identify. Would have been quite a big thing though, like 18 inches across. Golf ball, bottom right corner of the Mudlarking bingo card, right next to rusty pipe frame. That looks interesting, like a bone or a bone handle. Certainly feels like it could be bone, but that I think is illusory. Just the feel of the algae growing on the surface of what is ultimately the broken handle of a plastic comb. Rinse off a bit of the mud and can just about see that it's probably orange underneath. Oh well, if I ever decide to make a model of one of the insects from the film Starship Troopers, this would make a good lower jaw. That could be part of the rim of a mixing bowl. Possibly quite an old one, I reckon 18th, 19th century. That's quite nice. Not the siren, which means that somebody somewhere is having a bad day, the pattern on the pottery and the sunlight and being out in it with nice people. There's always some milk glass, part of a pond's cream jar, which must have been incredibly popular in the last century, or very unpopular to so often be thrown into the rivers. Steel toe cap. Oh, it would be nice to imagine that this once belonged to someone who helped build the rail bridge. And given how corroded it is, I think that's just about possible. Although the amount of Victorian through to 1960s pottery I'm starting to find suggests that this stretch of a river was a bit of a town dump, so it could have come from just about anyone's boot. Bit of ridged glass, probably off a bottle that contains something poisonous, but is it green or is it algae? That will have to wait till the clean-up. Well, that was surprising. I think, likely part of a ceramic water filter, probably late 19th to mid 20th century. I'm not sure. It could be the remains of a glass battery, or... Nope, no other ideas. Interesting but sharp, and I'm going to leave it. And I'm going to try not to imagine all the fabulous things that are surely just out of sight beneath this seaweed. The things I can see and find are only a tiny taste of what's here. A bit of a tile, a fairly tasteful one. I might take it. Button. Plastic, but somehow there's still a bit of joy in finding buttons in the wild. Maybe it harks back to playing with a big box of buttons as a child. Now, unlike the bolts I found yesterday, this actually looks like the older, almost stereotypical rail spike with its offset head. If I cleaned it up and got rid of the rust, it could be worth £5 or £6 on eBay. Shell of a whelk, a carnivorous sea snail, which preys on smaller snails and bivalve mollusks, drills holes in their shells with its tongue to get at them. Rusty bike frame. Very rusty. I wonder how old. Suspension forks, so it can't be more than a few decades. Drop down handlebars. I think that would date it even later. It's impressive how fast it's corroded. I just spotted these a fraction of a second before gale. Looks like art glass, a bauble maybe, quite a 50s, 60s style of glass patterning. A bit broken, but beautiful things, and who knows what they could become. I think I shall give this one to Gail and Alex, and double the possibility that at least one of them might become something new. Wire. Oh, and the skull of a seabird. If anyone can identify which seabird, then please do comment. I think Alex will like this. She told me not 10 minutes ago that she collects skulls. Somehow manages to look smaller on this side of the river. Perhaps it is. Or it could be the lighting difference. The weather is turning more cloudy and that means less contrast. Things look flatter and taller might look shorter. I see something. Just the kick up from an old bottle. Even though a 12th century castle got demolished to make it, I can't stay mad. 170 years is too long to hold a grudge, and it is a beautiful piece of Victorian engineering. In the time it took us to meander slowly up to the rail bridge and back down, the tide has gone out a considerable way. Sadly, I can't really take it, too big, and I'm too far from home. Hi, you're beautiful. I might have some food for you in my rucksack. Roundup time. And while it doesn't really look like much, for me at least, it's not really about finding much. It's about having fun in the outdoors, and as I find says, having luck in the muck. And what could be luckier than getting to spend time with lovely people in a beautiful place? Unfortunately, I had to leave while there was still daylight, so I wasn't there when the Northern Mudlarks quite luckily found a bottle dump. But regardless, I had a wonderful day, and I have 3 hopes regarding it: that I was good company, that I can visit again sometime fairly soon, and that the Northern Mudlarks might one day visit West Yorkshire so I can try to repay their hospitality. And the things I found are by no means bad finds. Some of the river glass is as smooth as the best sea glass, worthy of being used in jewellery. I really might have to add that to my growing list of intended projects. Most of the pottery pieces I found are 20th century and not all that pretty, but there are a few pieces I like. I found lots of pipe stem, and I didn't catch it on camera, but near to the end of the outing, just by the rail bridge, I found this, which I think is the oldest piece of clay pipe I've ever found, 17th century by the looks of it. My first find turned out, just as Alex guessed, to be a lamp. Electrical, probably big enough to be from a car or a motorbike. I couldn't find a maker's mark on or in it. Coincidentally, I found what I think is part of a more modern lamp, plastic this time. Trash, but coincidence nevertheless. I kept the more broken of the 2 glass baubles and broke it a bit more on the way home, but it's still a beautiful thing, possibly an art-blown glass bauble, or possibly, as people have said in the Northern Mudlarks video comment section, a glass fishing float, though the first page of a Google search for such didn't reveal anything as ornate as this. I think it might become the eye of something one day. I am intrigued by this lead wrapped around a wooden pole thing. It's going to be now on impossible to date without costly tree ring analysis or carbon dating, which I really don't think the Portable Antiquities scheme has the funding to do for such ambiguous things as this. Does anyone have any ideas what it was? My romantic idea that this steel toe cap could possibly have come off the boot of somebody building the rail bridge in the late 1840s is most probably wrong. Given the rate of corrosion of a fairly modern bike or two, and similarly the decay of a railroad spike, which could be that old but probably hadn't been in the river all that time, I'd have to guess that this toe cap is probably no more than 50-60 years old. I found the seabird skull, which I gave to Alex, and the jawbone of a squirrel, which one of my artist friends will probably like. Gail found some scrap lead, which I collect for recycling, so she gave it to me to take. Alex found the coiled thing, which is copper, probably a heating element, and I found quite a lot of wire, including some which was so freshly into the water that I am keeping it in its insulated wrapping for the time being, so it remains fresh and bright for when I come round to using it in a craft project. I had a great time, and I loved meeting the Northern Mudlarks. I hope that they enjoyed the day as much as I did, and I hope that you've enjoyed my footage of the day. If you have liked it, then please do give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, hit the bell icon to enable notifications, comment, share, donate, buy or ignore. Thank you all very much for watching, and for now, goodbye.